Hey everyone, welcome back to DTN Garden. Today we're going to talk about something very simple but very important. What fruit trees can actually survive and keep producing in a hot climate for many years? Because here's the truth, most fruit trees don't fail right away. They don't die suddenly. They slowly lose strength. Leaves still look green, the tree still stands, but growth becomes weaker and fruit becomes less consistent over time. And in hot climates, this happens more often than people expect. Not because you didn't care, but because the tree was never the right fit in the first place. Another common problem is how we take care of them. We water all trees the same way. We treat them the same. But different trees behave very differently in heat. Some need deep watering. Some prefer dry conditions. Some can handle strong sun all day. Others cannot. So when we use one method for everything, we slowly create stress without realizing it. And that's why many gardens feel like this. You plant, it grows, and a few years later, you start over again. So in this video, we're going to keep things simple. No complicated theory. I'll walk you through 9 fruit trees that are well known, widely grown, and have a real chance of lasting in hot climates. And for each one, I'll show you how to take care of it the right way so you don't have to keep fixing the same problem again and again. Let's get started. Fig. Let's start with one of the most reliable fruit trees for hot climates, fig. From my experience, fig trees are one of those plants that don't try to fight the heat. They work with it. Figs naturally develop deeper root systems over time, which means once they are established, they don't depend on frequent watering like many other fruit trees. This is one of the main reasons they can survive for many years, even in dry and hot conditions. But there is a common mistake here. Many people treat fig trees like other fruit trees. They water them lightly, but often, and that keeps the roots close to the surface, right where the heat is strongest. Over time, that actually makes the tree more sensitive, not stronger. If you want a fig tree to last, you need to do almost the opposite. Water less often, but water deeply. Let the soil dry slightly between watering. This encourages the roots to go deeper, where moisture stays longer. Another important factor is soil. Figs do not like soil that holds too much water. If the soil stays wet for too long, roots can weaken over time. So well-drained soil is not optional here. It is essential. Sunlight is rarely a problem for figs. They can handle strong sun, even in hot climates. But young trees may still need a little protection in extreme heat. Once established, they become much more stable. This is why many older gardens still have fig trees producing after many years. Not because they are heavily maintained, but because they were allowed to grow the way they were meant to. Pomegranate. Next, we have a fruit tree that is almost made for hot and dry climates. Pomegranate. What makes pomegranate special is not just that it can survive heat, it actually prefers conditions that many other trees struggle with. Dry air, strong sunlight, and soil that does not stay wet for too long. From my experience, pomegranate trees often do better when you do less, not more. One of the most common mistakes is overwatering. People see dry soil and assume the tree needs more water. But pomegranate roots do not like sitting in wet conditions. Too much water, especially in soil that drains slowly, can weaken the tree over time. Instead, this tree prefers a pattern. Water deeply, then allow the soil to dry out before watering again. This cycle helps the roots stay strong and prevents long-term stress. Sunlight is also important. Pomegranate trees need full sun to grow well and produce fruit. If they are placed in shade, they may survive, but they will not thrive. Another thing to watch is airflow. In very humid areas, poor airflow can create problems over time. So this tree works best in places that are hot, dry, and open. When planted in the right conditions, pomegranate can live for many years with very little intervention. Mulberry. Next is a tree that many people underestimate, mulberry. At first glance, it may not look as impressive as other fruit trees, but when it comes to surviving in hot climates, it is one of the most reliable. Mulberry trees grow fast, they adapt quickly, and they can tolerate a wide range of conditions. From my experience, this is one of the easiest fruit trees to establish, even in less than ideal soil. But that does not mean it should be ignored, because one common mistake with mulberry is letting it grow without control. Since it grows quickly, it can become too dense, too crowded, and when airflow is reduced, heat stress builds up inside the canopy. So the key with mulberry is balance. Let it grow, but guide its structure. Light pruning helps maintain airflow. It also keeps the tree at a manageable size, which makes harvesting easier. Watering is less complicated compared to other fruit trees. Mulberry can handle dry periods quite well once established, but during early growth, it still needs consistent moisture. Another advantage is fruit production. Mulberry trees can produce regularly without requiring perfect conditions. This makes them a good choice for gardeners who want something dependable. Not perfect, but stable. And in a hot climate, that kind of stability matters more than anything else. Guava. Next is a fruit tree that many people love because it produces a lot, guava. In hot climates, guava can grow very quickly. It adapts fast, and when conditions are right, it can produce fruit regularly. But this is also where problems begin, because fast growth can be misleading. At first, everything looks great. New leaves, new branches, fruit forming. But over time, if the growth is not managed properly, the tree becomes unstable. One of the most common mistakes with guava is inconsistent watering. Too much water, then too little. This creates stress, not immediately, but gradually. Guava prefers a more steady pattern, not extreme wet, not extreme dry. A consistent rhythm helps the tree maintain balance, especially during hot periods. Another key factor is pruning. Because guava grows quickly, it can become too dense. And when the canopy is too thick, light cannot reach inside. Airflow is reduced, heat builds up. So regular light pruning helps maintain structure and improves fruit quality over time. Sunlight is important, but not extreme exposure all day for young trees. Young guava trees may benefit from slight protection during the hottest hours. Once established, they become more tolerant. Guava is a productive tree, but to make it last, you need to slow it down just a little. Mango. Now let's talk about one of the most popular fruit trees in hot climates, mango. At first, mango seems like the perfect choice. It loves heat, it grows well in warm regions, and it can produce incredible fruit. But this is also one of the easiest trees to misunderstand, because not all hot climates are the same. Some are dry, some are humid, some have heavy soil, some drain quickly, and mango reacts very differently depending on these conditions. One of the most common problems is soil that holds too much water. Even in hot weather, if the roots stay wet for too long, the tree begins to weaken. Mango roots need air, they need space, and they need soil that drains well. So instead of watering frequently, it is better to water deeply, and then allow the soil to dry out slightly. Another important factor is space. Mango trees grow large. If they are planted too close to structures or other trees, their growth becomes restricted. This affects airflow, sunlight, and long-term stability. Sunlight itself is not a problem. Mango trees can handle strong sun, but young trees may need some protection during extreme heat. Once established, they become much more resilient. Mango is not a difficult tree, but it requires the right conditions from the beginning. If you get that part right, it can become one of the most rewarding trees in your garden. Olive. Next is a tree that many people find interesting, but often misunderstand. Olive. Olive trees are well known for growing in hot climates, but more specifically, they are adapted to dry heat, not humid heat. And this difference is very important. In the right conditions, olive trees can live for decades, even generations. But in the wrong conditions, they struggle quietly. One of the most common mistakes is treating olive trees like tropical fruit trees. People water them too often, or plant them in soil that holds too much moisture. But olive roots do not like wet soil. They need oxygen, they need space, and they need soil that dries out properly between watering. So instead of frequent watering, olive trees prefer deep watering with long gaps in between. This allows the roots to stay healthy and prevents long-term stress. Another key factor is airflow. Olive trees do best in open spaces where air can move freely. In humid or crowded environments, problems can slowly develop. Sunlight is not an issue. Olive trees can handle full sun all day. But again, the soil and air conditions must match. This is not a tree for every garden, but in the right environment, it becomes one of the most stable, long-term trees you can grow. Not fast, not flashy, but very consistent over time. Date palm. Next is a tree that many people associate with extreme heat, date palm. This is one of the longest living fruit trees when it is planted in the right environment, but it is also one of the most misunderstood. Because date palms are not just heat tolerant, they are adapted to very specific conditions: dry air, strong sunlight, and soil that drains extremely well. In natural environments, they often grow where water is deep underground, not sitting near the surface. This is important to understand because many people try to grow date palms in regular garden conditions, and that's where problems begin. One of the biggest mistakes is planting them in soil that holds moisture or watering them too frequently. Date palm roots do not like constant moisture. They need dry conditions near the surface and deep access to water below. This is very different from most fruit trees. So watering should be deep, but not frequent. And the soil must allow water to move through quickly. Another key factor is space. Date palms grow tall and need open sky. They do not do well in crowded gardens. Airflow, sunlight, and heat all need to be present. This is not a tree for small or humid spaces. But if your environment matches, it becomes one of the most stable trees you can grow. Not fast to produce, not easy everywhere, but incredibly long-lasting. Citrus. Now let's talk about one of the most popular fruit tree groups, citrus. Oranges, lemons, limes. These are trees that many people want in their garden. But they are also among the most commonly misunderstood in hot climates. Because citrus trees are not all the same. Some varieties handle heat very well. Others struggle, especially in extreme or dry conditions. One of the biggest mistakes is assuming that all citrus trees behave the same way. And because they are so common, people often expect them to be easy. But citrus trees are actually quite sensitive, especially when it comes to watering. Too much water, roots stay wet, and the tree begins to weaken. Too little water, and the tree becomes stressed. Fruit may drop early. So the key here is balance. Not too wet, not too dry. A consistent watering pattern is one of the most important things for citrus. Another factor is soil. Citrus trees do not like heavy soil that holds water. They need soil that drains well, but still holds enough moisture for roots to access. Sunlight is important. Most citrus trees need full sun to produce well. But in very extreme heat, young trees may need some protection. Another thing to consider is variety. Not all citrus types perform the same in hot climates. Some are more tolerant. Some require milder conditions. So choosing the right variety is just as important as how you care for it. Citrus trees can be very rewarding, but they require attention to detail. When the balance is right, they can produce consistently for many years. Loquat. The last tree on this list is one that many people don't think about at first. Loquat. It's not as popular as mango or as common as citrus, but in the right conditions, it can be one of the most stable fruit trees in a warm climate. Loquat trees are well adapted to mild heat. They don't require extreme conditions, but they also don't do well under constant stress. This is a tree that prefers balance, not too dry, not too wet, not too exposed, not too shaded. One of the most common mistakes is planting loquat in areas with harsh afternoon sun without any protection. While mature trees can handle heat, young trees are more sensitive. So giving them partial protection during early growth can make a big difference over time. Another important factor is soil moisture. Loquat does not like extreme dryness, but it also cannot tolerate waterlogged soil. So again, balance is key. Consistent watering with good drainage helps maintain steady growth. Loquat trees also tend to have a more controlled growth pattern. They don't grow too aggressively, which makes them easier to manage, especially in smaller gardens. And over time, this controlled growth becomes an advantage. Less pruning, less correction, more stability. It may not be the fastest tree, it may not produce the most fruit, but it is reliable. And sometimes that's exactly what a long-term garden needs. And long-term mindset. So after looking at these trees, you might notice something. There is no perfect tree. Each one has strengths. Each one has limits, and each one works best only in the right conditions. That's really the idea behind this video, not to find the best fruit tree, but to find the one that fits your space, your climate, and the way you want to care for your garden. Because in the long run, gardening is not about doing more. It's about doing the right things at the right time. Some trees grow fast but don't last. Some trees take longer but become more stable over the years. And when you choose carefully, you start to notice something different. You stop fixing problems all the time. You stop starting over. And your garden begins to feel more predictable, more stable, more enjoyable. Not perfect, but consistent. If you've been thinking about planting fruit trees in a hot climate, take your time. Look at your space. Look at your soil. Look at how water behaves in your garden. And choose a tree that works with those conditions, not against them. Because when the match is right, you don't need to force the garden. It begins to take care of itself a little more each year. If this kind of calm, practical approach to gardening is helpful for you, you're always welcome to stay with the channel. And if you've tried any of these trees or had a different experience, feel free to share it. It often helps more than you think. Thanks for spending time in the garden today.